Good morning and welcome to Safari Live's Sunrise Safari. My name is Brent Smith. I've got Bryan Djuma on camera and we have Andrew Francis and James Henry on Bushwalk this morning, and we have Tara and Lou in final control. What a spectacular way to start the day. It's sun breaking through the clouds and hopefully there's some animals out there for us. I'm really excited to take you all on a live African safari with me. And to start off the day, apart from that spectacular sky, in the road at the bottom of the dip is an animal. I know a favorite of quite a lot of the viewers, and it looks like a male giraffe. So we're just gonna sidle down the hill. So unfortunately, Jigger, our other vehicle, is not in the best of ways. Andrew and myself, while deep in Arathusa last night, stopped working. Another electrical issue. As I turned the lights on as it got dark, the vehicle just switched off and blew another fuse, literally. So we had to actually have a bit of a bush mechanic session out there. Took one of our old earpieces, stripped it, got copper wire and made a fuse to get home without any lights. So fortunately out here we do have lots of support, but in my younger years in places like Tanzania and Botswana, if you broke down you couldn't fix it, you'd have to sleep out there and then wait till daylight the next day and walk home to get another vehicle to fetch you. So learned a few tricks over the years, and fortunately they came in handy last night. Oh, it looks like this giraffe might be self-medicating. I can't see whether it's feeding on the tambourji tree or a tree that's behind. Not the most relaxed giraffe this morning. Let's have a quick look what he was feeding on. So here's a little tambourji tree, and he was self-medicating. We'll have a look at him now, but this is quite interesting. Very few animals actually eat this tree that's here. It is called the tambourji tree. It is a very highly noxious tree, and I'm going to try see if I get... Oh, I'm going to be a bit careful. I don't know if you can zoom in on that there, Bryan. You can see there's some milky latex. Oh, it's quite difficult to see. Let me see if I can get a single leaf out. There we go. Now you got to be very careful with this milky latex. If I got it on my skin, it would burn, and it can be used medicinally and traditionally for quite a few things. If you take that milky latex and put it on warts, it'll burn the latex off. But a few animals, giraffe, elephant, baboons, kudu, and black rhino, when they've got quite a lot of stomach parasites or tapeworms, will actually feed off this tree, causing them to purge their systems and kill those parasites. So really, really interesting. And I'm just going to sneak forward, and the giraffe is watching us. Obviously he's got a bit of a upset tummy, and that's why he's feeding off the tambourji. It's a big male giraffe. Well, it's interesting. You can actually see the bolus in his mouth. So that could be, probably he wouldn't eat just pure tambourji. He would bring up, like most ruminants do, from one of his stomachs. So ruminants have 4 stomachs. Whatever else he had been eating yesterday or during the night, mix some of that tambourji medicine into there, and he will chew that bolus. Oh, we've got a bit of a traffic jam on the way here. I just need to move off the road quickly. And it looks like he might head down towards the Buffelshoek waterhole for a drink later in the morning, so he'll definitely be around. But we've got another car on the way. one of the lodge vehicles, but it's a maintenance vehicle, and maybe they've seen some animals and they can give us a tip to what's out there. Ninjanufu, Yama sein Loot. Ankom. So he hasn't seen anything yet. The giraffe is playing peekaboo with us. So bit of an update. I'm pretty sure you might have got it from James yesterday, but for those of you who know and love the Nkahuma pride, which for those of you who don't know, it's one of our regular prides of lions, they have been found on a giraffe kill north of our boundary. How's that, Bryan? And so they're not going to be moving for a while unless they're chased off there by males, but only the 5 lionesses, no junior present there at the moment. Oh, and you can hear dawn chorus going behind us. Black-crowned chagra, hornbills, arrow-marked babblers, white-browed scrub robin. And if we go a little bit low on the neck, you see there's a missing patch of skin, and that is a fungal infection on the giraffe. And giraffe get it quite regularly. It doesn't seem to do them any damage, probably quite itchy, and you do see them scratching their necks against trees and stuff sometimes. And look, just between his horns there's an oxpecker. Red-billed oxpecker. You can hear that. That's the oxpecker. For those wondering what that click was, it was just my camera trying to get a shot of that oxpecker between the horns. Looks like the cloud is dissipating nicely, and I think we're in for a beautiful warm day later, but at the moment quite chilly. 15 degrees Celsius, 53 Fahrenheit. Nice big mature giraffe bull. Giraffe can live to about 30 years old, and so he's probably between 20 and 25 would be my guess. It can be quite difficult to age as they become adults. Lots of Cape turtle doves calling as well. You can also hear a crested barbet in the distance. And both Natal and crested francolin calling as well. You can see those lovely long eyelashes that most ladies would be jealous of, that a giraffe has. And giraffe have very long eyelashes for very good reason. You must think they feed off quite a few thorny plants, and those long eyelashes are sort of defense mechanisms to warn them before they put their eye in a thorn. So those long eyelashes are there, they will just touch the thorn, and the giraffe will know to keep its eyes closed or slightly position its head differently. Well, did you see that? He brought up another bolus up his neck. And you see that very distinct ruminant chewing motion, the side to side of the bottom jaw. Obviously the top jaw is fixed into the skull. And you you can see there's another fungal patch on the other side of the neck. Well, Abby says she recognizes this giraffe. She recognizes the patches on the neck. Says we've seen it before on the live safaris. Beautiful dark coloring on this male. And with males, sometimes that darkness comes with age, and other times it is just their skin color. They can, like different people have different skin tones, so do giraffes, depending on the melanin, which is that dark coloration. Well, we're going to leave him be for now. We'll definitely maybe make a meander towards the Bushwalk waterhole a bit later as it gets warmer, and maybe he'll be going for a drink. But at the moment he's probably about 150 meters to the north of the waterhole, and we're going to go in search of predator tracks while it's still nice and early and cool, and hopefully we have some luck this morning. We're talking about those patches on a giraffe's neck. As I said, they are caused by fungus. And Jane from Ontario, and more specifically Smithsville, in the Great White North of Canada, was wondering, will they ever heal over? Not that I've noticed, Jane. I think they're pretty much there to stay, and they do sometimes spread into bigger areas. Seems like Kachino John is in fine form this morning. As I said, you all don't believe me about my bush mechanic skills, and you know I just called Jamie for advice about how to get the vehicle up and running. Well, you'll never know whether it's true or not. We're about to head up to the northeastern corner of our Traverse area, and we do find tracks in this area, quite a lot of both lion, leopard, and of my favorite, the African wild dog. So fingers crossed that one of those three, and even possibly the cheetah, might have been in this eastern section overnight. But if not, there's still so much magic and wonder in the African bush. All the plants and flowers and all the other characters out here: zebra, impala, steenbokkies, elephants, buffaloes. Double checking something. One impala over there looks like he's staring intently into the bush. Just see if he starts snorting, then possibly there's a predator. I'm going to go forward a bit for behind. So when? Here we go. Just head very still. Like he's trying to figure out whether there is a possible threat. We suddenly want to see him just start snorting, which means there definitely would be a predator. Now, interestingly, they will snort at lion, leopard, cheetah, but if they see an African wild dog, they just run. There's no time for alarm calling. So he's very, very focused. He could be looking at another impala, but that we can't see. But it is worth always checking these little signs when you're out in the bush, and you never know when they might come to fruition. He hasn't moved his head yet, still staring very intently. It's these tiny little signs that you hear, you see, and even sometimes smell that can often lead you to some of the predators out here. Move forward a little bit, see if we can see what he is looking at. Maybe there could be other impala there. Bryan, can you see anything? I can't see anything in that area where he's looking, but it's worth just waiting a minute or so and listening, because if he does start that snorting, there's almost certainly a kitty cat around. Where am I? Binoculars. In Afrikaans, there's a wonderful name, or the name for binoculars is quite wonderful and very descriptive. They're called verkykers, which basically translated means far lookers. We've got leopard calling, and that sounds like it's quite close to us on, possibly on Djuma or right on the boundary. It sounds like a male leopard calling to the south of us. Hold on, guys. And that's what I say. Sitting quietly often leads to a clue to follow up on. Either very close to our boundary or even on our boundary. And I say male because it sounded quite deep. Sorry about the speed, but we need to get into that area as fast as possible to maximize our chances of finding this animal. It's still a little bit further down, so we're going to go a bit further again and then stop again, and then we're going to sit quietly and see if we can hear it again. If not, then I'll start really carefully looking for tracks. So there was a report of Impala in this property to the east of us last night, and I haven't seen him in such an age. It'd be really great to see that male leopard again. Wisconsin got as excited as me and she accidentally swallowed her gum. I apologize for that, Liz. Hopefully it's not in vain. No tracks yet. I guess it would be around Central Junction. I'm also watching as we go past things like Impala, see if they're folk in a particular area. Okay, so this is the general area where I think that call came from. I'm just going to check the road up ahead here. Roads are like veritable highways for the cats. And we've got nothing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to that where I can see as far down the road that way as possible, as well behind us. And then we're going to switch off and listen. So if they're walking and calling, not hunting, so they don't mind as much being seen by the other animals around here, so there could be alarm calls that also could help lead us to where this leopard is. Just gonna keep quiet and listen. Bryan, don't forget to check behind us every now and then. Come on, saw again. So, another update, Lynn and Ashley heard leopard sawing on the Djuma cam around 3 o'clock this morning. We're quite far from there, but leopards can cover quite a bit of distance. And even though it was quite faint where I heard it earlier, I'm sort of hoping it's really loud now. Always make sure it's checked behind us down the road as well. Where are you, kitty cat? Might have just been teasing us with that one rasp now. But when they are calling, quite often they will call multiple times. Still very exciting. Nothing further. I just want to check around the proverbial next corner, but I'm pretty confident with my instincts that it was in this general area, but it is still worth checking around the next corner. Radio. Morning, Craig. I just had leopard audio around Cheetah Cut Line Central Junction. Could still be in the east. I'm checking the Cheetah Cut Line at the moment. Ingwe audio. Copy, thanks. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sit here and listen. It could take 5 to 10 minutes before this leopard calls again. So while we sit here and listen, I think Commander Bond would like to say good morning and go see what he's been up to on foot.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the most bush intimate experience you can possibly have. My name is James Henry, and I am not the little black worm-like thing looking at you through the camera. That is, in fact, a millipede, and we are on foot in the mighty wilderness of the Kruger National Park. This millipede that Andrew is showing you is a quite astonishing little creature, filled with cyanide he is, and that's to avoid him being devoured by the various predators that might want to eat such a, well, relatively scrumptious-looking worm. He will also, if you pick him up, make a mess on your hand at short notice, and that mess smells pretty vile, I have to say. So, from the order Myriapoda, meaning 1,000 feet, that is a millipede, and he is sitting on something called a whiteberry bush. Now, Andrew, if I might trouble you to pull back from your arty shot there of the millipede. I'm going to show you some grass here, everybody. Fascinating stuff is grass. I'm sure you'll all agree. Possibly you won't. This is a magnificent grass, or I think it's a magnificent grass, called Chloris roxburghiana. A beautiful sort of feathered chloris, I think it's called. And it grows on these termite mounds, and it's hugely popular amongst animals for eating. And that is because it grows on these termite mounds, and so it picks up a lot of the nutrients that come out of the soil that makes up the termite mounds. The soil is so nutritious because of the feces of the termites and their saliva, and it's filled with different things that isn't necessarily part of the rest of the bush. And I've spoken a little on Drive of late about the root system of various grasses. Now, it's important that you understand this. Mainly, I've now lost the root I was going to show you. I will have to retrieve another one. Stand by. Stand by. Here we go. Okay. So, this is called an adventitious root system. Now, many of you would have learned that in your probably, say, 4th grade biology classroom. And it's different and distinct from a taproot system, which would be on a tree. This adventitious root system, these are the roots here, and they spread no deeper than that. So if this is the, that's where the soil would fall. and they would never get really deeper than where my hand is. Now you can see how it's absolutely essential for this grass to drink. It must have access to surface water, and that can only come from rain. And that's why during the dry season, of course, these grasses go completely brown and they sort of die off. In the case of a tree, there's a taproot that comes down and it goes all the way into the water table. And in this particular area where we're sitting, that water table is probably about 50 meters below the surface of the soil, and the trees therefore can survive with much less water, for example, than can the grasses. So that is Chloris roxburghiana, and I think that we shall press on and see what other wonders we can find. We are, of course, standing with a termite mound. And then a question from Charlie. You're going to stay with us for the moment, everybody. Brent is out tracking, so I'm going to start speaking a little more quietly as we move. Charlie, you want to know, is it, you've seen a lot of millipedes at the moment, and is it because of the season? It's absolutely because of the season, and it's because of the amount of rain that we've had. They've come out of where they've been hiding, I think probably in the ground, and that's why we're starting to see them a bit more. Look at this quite bizarre succulent here. Come on, man. Right, so sorry about that. Andrew and I are a bit new to this. We're not sure of the vagaries of the Bushwalk system. Andrew is carrying about 15 kilograms of equipment on his back. Look at this bizarre succulent. I couldn't tell you what it's called. I think it's going to produce some quite odd sort of, I've seen the flowers, reddish flowers. Now, succulent, of course, is a plant that stores water on board, so it doesn't it's not affected by things like drought. So it's normally very slow growing, and I suspect this one has been here for many years indeed, and I think only will be identifiable once its flowers come out. All right, let's see what else we can find. This stick, of course, that I'm carrying is purely for the effect. It's not really a weapon at all. I suppose I could discipline Andrew the things that he used to, but otherwise it's just quite a nice pointing device. Now we are walking through what is termed a combretum woodland. Now most of the big trees that you can see around here are combretum or bush willow trees, and that is the most common tree type that we get in this area. The soils, as you can see us walking along here, are sandy and they're derived of granite. That means that many, many millions of years ago, the granite rock that underlies this area weathered to form this sandy soil. And it's very nutrient poor. It's not very nutrient rich at all. Here's another interesting thing here. I do find on foot you can find hundreds of very interesting things. We look around here. This is a tree, believe it or not, that you can make furniture from. Well, in the absence of its most, should we say, aggressive predator. This is the leaf, and it is called a round-leafed teak. And this round-leafed teak is a favored food, especially during the dry winter months, of elephants. Now, what normally happens is it grows up in these scraggly sticks. The elephants pick it out and then eat it. And if you were to see them in a field, and they grow in quite sort of thick stands, you'd think that that was the plant, this kind of stick that grows out of the ground. But here, because the roots have been uncovered by elephants digging, you can see that this Pterocarpus rotundifolius, or round-leaf teak, is actually an extensive root system. It goes all the way around here. It's quite astonishing. That is one plant, and I suspect this plant is probably very, very ancient. It wouldn't have grown like this but for probably, I'd say, at least 100 years in the ground. It was pushed and graze away. They'll take away these short shoots the whole time. Each season, it'll get thicker and thicker and thicker at the base. So it probably actually extends all the way around where my stick is pointing now. Quite amazing. Let us continue. Brent, just while you are, if you're wandering, is on foot trying to find that leopard that he heard calling. I don't think it's anywhere near here, but it would be rather marvelous if Brent's leopard came wandering past us. Let's go down here, Andrew. Come on, man. See what else we can find. You can see the sky beautifully lightening up there on the horizon. And there seems to be more front coming through. Let's keep walking. Apparently we don't have great signal here. I suspect at the end of this lot, Andrew is going to be extremely tired. There's a skeleton up here. Let's go and have a look at that. I think it was from a rhino that's met its demise. But it's quite interesting. We'll be able to see the different parts of the mammal anatomy. Right, here we go. This is remarkable. Okay, so a sad situation here. This is a rhino carcass. I think it was poached, but obviously that was some time ago. And I must just tell you that the security in the private reserves around here has improved to the extent that I don't think in the northern Sabi sands there's been one rhino poached in the last, well, certainly a good few months. They seem to have done a very good job of catching the poachers and stopping the problem. Anyway, let's have a look first at the skull. Here is the skull. Now, the first thing to note about this rhino skull, obviously, is that it is enormous. It's a huge, huge thing. And when we look at it, here is where the horn would have attached. Now, so the horn is fused to the skull, and in this one, it obviously is not fused to the skull at all. And that's why, unfortunately, when these poachers come along and slice off the horns, what happens is they take off this part of the skull as well, and that obviously creates enormous pain for the animal if it happens to still be alive. So that's the skull, and let's just have a look at the teeth. Now, these are molars, and we use these terms, molars and canines, and various other sort of dentistry terms, and perhaps it's not obvious what we mean. But the molars are the back teeth here, and they are responsible for grinding up the grass. And a rhino is not what we call a hindgut, or at least a ruminant. It chews its food only once, and you can see how these teeth have worn down over many, many years of grinding away. If you had teeth that looked like that, and if you do have teeth like that, you need to seek dental advice fairly soon, because a cavity like that is going to result in a lot of pain. Right. Whoops, dropped my radio. And long before this rhino met its end, of course, it probably used to visit this area a lot. And I can tell that because of the mud here. Look at this mud that covers this tree. This is another combretum tree, a bush willow tree, and you can see the mud that covers it. And this was probably a rubbing post. And as we've spoken of before, we know that these animals like to go and wallow in the mud, and then they come along to an area like this, and they rub themselves on the tree, and sometimes you can actually find the ectoparasites, like the ticks, caught in the mud. That's why they do it. The mud dries, and you know, when clay dries, it contracts, and so it pulls the biting mouth parts of the tick out of the skin, and then they rub that off onto the trees. I can't see anything here, though. Beautiful stuff, this mud, I have to say. Lovely. All right, let's just have a bit more. So, Dee, you ask an excellent question. Your Twitter handle is twiddle to you. I'm not sure what that means. But Dee, you want to know, do we not have problems with ticks when we're on foot? Yes, sometimes we do. You can get something called tick bite fever out here. I've had it in this particular area, and so if I get savaged by ticks, what it does do is give me a very kind of mild headache. But it's not a major issue. Tick bite fever is not a pleasant thing, but it's nothing like, say, that horrible tick-borne disease that you get in the US. What's it called? Lyme's disease. It's not nearly as bad as Lyme's disease. So, I mean, some guys spray, some guys wear different things on their feet. I don't worry about this area, so it's not a huge train smash for me. It just is a little bit itchy sometimes, and normally later in the summer. But there are ticks around. I just wanted to show you one more thing about this. Oh, here. Andrew, do you know what these bones are? These are the hips. So they come out the coccyx, and this is the hip bone of a rhinoceros. Enormously thick, of course, and carries a huge amount of weight, must bear an enormous weight. A rhino bull is 2,500 kilograms, or 2.5 tons, and in pounds that's about 6,000 to 7,000 pounds. And you look at these beetles. Can you come and can you see these beetles? To move, I'm afraid. I'll pick one up. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, I've picked up one of these beetles. So, you lost some signal there. We were talking about an animal that weighs 2,500 kilograms. That is not, in fact, this beetle that I'm looking at now. No. Hang on, Andrew. I'll get him again. Here he comes. 2,500 kilograms is what a rhinoceros bull weighs. And I was just saying that those hips that we were looking at have to carry a tremendous amount of weight. That is a little beetle that we found living on the skeleton. We'll put him back there, and he's beautifully colored. He looks just like a Cape glossy starling. His color, at least. Oh, no, he's really not very confiding at all. Okay, I'm going to put him back on his piece of skull. I don't want him to resent me for having moved him. There you are, little beetle. Right, marvelous. Okay, I think we should forge ahead, see what else the wilderness has to offer us. Right, now, Mary, while we're walking along, you want to see a rhino. I'm afraid the reason that we don't show them to you, they are around here sometimes, certainly not as numerous as they used to be, but we don't show them to you. Urge, want to provide, and so we don't show rhino. They are around here. So them to you. Sorry, Mary, Andrew and I are just getting used to sorting the signal out on this thing. We do get rhino here, but we don't, because of the poaching scourge, we don't want to get any kind of indication as to where they are. They're not as common as they used to be, And one day we hope very much to be able to show them to you. They are the most fascinating animals all around. Well, they're not all around. See, that was probably a territorial bull that used to live in this area. Sad state of affairs. Check this out, Andrew. May you know what the lifespan of a rhino is while we're sitting looking at what seems to be, I actually don't know what that is. I think it's the shells from some sort of insect. Some sort of silk-producing insect. It might actually, that is astonishing. I don't know what that is. You see there, Andrew, you want to know what a rhino bull weighs, how long it lives, probably about 45 years. Let's just open this up slightly. This is a silk-producing insect that has created a bit of a protective home for itself here, and I suspect what these little things are little chrysalises, or they are fecal pellets. I'll take one and break it open. And I think probably we're looking at a fecal pellet here. Yeah, we are. Fecal pellet. Nothing inside there. But whatever this is, and I don't know what it is, right, let's go back to Brent. We'll move into hopefully a more signal-rich area. He's still listening for the leopard. We'll see you just now. Forward ho.
So, unfortunately, we've heard that leopard again. It is across our boundary. But I've just got a call from Aubrey saying there's some lion tracks to the south of the property. So we're going to move off there. So bear with me for a few seconds as I drop through this dip. We might have a bit of signal issue, but it should be fine as we come up on the other side. The good thing is, apparently, from what I'm hearing, is that leopard's moving hopefully a little bit further north. What was that I spotted there? Just Impala, unfortunately, but look, does he have the 1,000-yard stare on? No, there's another Impala running behind him. I'm just checking that one out. Got to follow up on all the half chances. Yeah, I'm going to be on the radio with Aubrey quickly, find out exactly where those tracks were. Aubrey. Oh, we apologize about that. It seems like that area has got some very bad signal. I thought I saw something that looked very feline-like as we were speeding past it. And now as I get a little bit closer, it's not. It's the hyenas. Very big hyena track, but nevertheless, always worth checking. As you can see, as you're going past, have a look. It just looks like it could be a cat track, but it's not. It's a hyena track. There they are. Big hyena track, but a hyena track nonetheless. So we've spotted a few of the most numerous antelope in Africa south of the Sahara, the Impala, and Dr. Debbie, welcome. I posted it's the end of November, beginning of December. It's going to be on the radio for a second. Obi. For some reason it seems to be getting colder this morning, and I'm hoping these clouds dissipate a little bit faster than they are. Appreciate you guys keeping an eye on those damn cams, and Michael just let me know that a hyena crossed the Djuma cam 5 to 10 minutes ago. I'll be back with you now. Standing by orbs. Thanks, Orbs. I'd like to join you there. Confirm on the power lines of Triple M. Copy, thanks very much. I'm on Gary Main, getting close to Shabam Junction. I will join you shortly. Help follow up on those tracks, but he's done the job for us. He's found them, so we're going to go see. I don't know which lines this are, so this could be quite exciting. Could it be the Tsalalas? Could the Nkahumas have left their giraffe? I doubt it, but could it be sticks? Could it be a pride of lines? We don't know. The line dynamics are so fascinating at the moment. So I'm going to be going a little bit quicker to get there. So, to Impala Plains. So we're going to get there as soon as possible. So we didn't have the leopard luck, but Aubrey seems to have the lion luck. I'm really looking forward to a bit more sunny weather. We can see it's starting to break up a little bit over there, but for me it can't break up fast enough. As much as I love seeing lions and leopards, I always prefer to find them myself, a little bit more rewarding. But don't worry, we're gonna go look at these ones anyway. Probably about 5 to 8 minutes away from these lions. I just can't help wonder which lions they are. So while we speed off towards these lions, Pretty Nightmare says, please let it be Junior. Unfortunately, Pretty Nightmare, out of all the lions, that is probably the lion I think it is the least, with the rest of the Impala pride feasting upon a giraffe to the north of us, and him not being there and this being a pride, the chances of it being Junior are probably very, very slim. So, although the leopards have evaded us so far at the sunrise safari, while we make our way towards the other kitty cat, we've got a question from Ashley in North Carolina, and she would like to know, are leopards and snow leopard different species, or is a snow leopard just a leopard in a winter coat? There are actually completely different species, Ashley. I've gone drawing a blank. So the Latin name for a leopard is Panthera pardus, and if I remember correctly, I could be wrong on this one, you guys. Let me just try to remember all the Pantheras. So we've got Panthera leo, which is lion, which we're on our way to see. We've got Panthera pardus, which is the leopard that occurs through most of Africa, Asia, and into India. We have Panthera onca, which is the jaguar. Oh, I've completely forgotten what a tiger is, but I will remember that one. And then I think the snow leopard's Panthera onyx. So, but there are Panthera species. There are a completely different species of cat, and endemic to the high mountains of the Himalayas, in Pakistan, India, Tibet, Nepal, and definitely on my bucket list of creatures to see. The one problem about moving quickly to find these lions is it is getting very chilly. That hyena walking past the Djuma Dam cam has caused a bit of debate, and Charlie is saying, have they moved the den? Why haven't we seen that youngster? I'm very sure they have moved the den, and I think it's in that area to the north of Gallagher, which is, we were in there yesterday morning on the sunrise safari following a hyena with a big buffalo leg in its mouth, and I think it was going back towards the den. Unfortunately, that area has got a lot of very steep little drainage lines, an ideal place to den, and I think the only way we're going to know for sure is if we take a walk through there, which we will do at some point quite soon. The one problem about that area is that they might possibly have a den that we can't get a vehicle to in there, but we will definitely try find them in there. Okay, it's nearly time to find out which lions we're going to look at. To come through onto Impala plains, and they're a little bit further to the north of the open area. Standing by Craig. Sorry, just going to be on the radio for a second. That's a phone. Negative, and I also walked possibly half of it as well. So, for those of you who might have joined us a bit late, we're rushing to go see lions. We're not sure which lions there are, but on the other lion updates, there are the Nkuhuma Pride minus Junior on a giraffe kill in Buffels Hook, and there are 3 Birmingham males and 1 Styx lioness on a buffalo kill in Little Gowrie, which is to the south of us. So those are the other lines. If I had to guess, maybe Tsalalas Pride coming down. We probably about 2 kilometers from where they had those buffalo kills, and they might be trying to head towards their traditional home range, which is to the south of us. But we're not sure. Getting into that area, there's this wonderful open section along a natural seep line where water moves from the top of the ridge through to the bottom of the drainage lines, and you get these wonderful open patches filled with quarries. And from what I heard from Aubrey, those lions are sleeping on one of these open areas here. Now we're playing the game that is much easier than Spot the Lion. It's Spot Aubrey. And I've spotted Aubrey. Spotted a lion. Three stations with the Ngada off Impala Road. Thanks very much, Orbs. Okay, so you can guess which lions these are. I know who they are. And I'm sure if Bryan pans through to the rest of them, there's one female who's got a very distinct giveaway. There she is. So it is the Tsalalas Pride. 6 of them. wonder where that other young male has gone. They are still full of buffalo, and they killed 4 sub-adult buffalo in 4 days. Very contented lions still. And that by no means means they won't hunt again. All predators are opportunists, and they'll take any opportunity if it presents themselves, but they're not going to put too much effort into hunting with big bellies like this. We're just going to move around a little bit. So while we're with some kitty cats, we've got a question from Erin, who's a new viewer. Welcome on Safari Live, Erin. Erin would like to know whether we get jaguars here. Unfortunately, lots. Definitely one of the animals I'd like to see the most, but they live from sort of southern United States all the way through down into the bottom end of Brazil and into the Amazon rainforest. We do not have any jaguars here. And Lisa was also wondering, when jaguars call, what is it called? Is it also sawing? Lisa, I'm afraid, I think it might be, but I'm afraid I'm not 100% sure on that. But so all the cats in the Panthera section of the family, so your large cats, what is one of the main differences between them and small cats is a bone in their throat. And in the small cats, it is a solid bone, so they're not able to roar. And in the big cats, it is elastic, almost like cartilage. So when they blow air over it, it vibrates, and that's what enables the big cats to roar. And I will show you guys a picture of it, if I can find my correct book in my massive box of books. So that is one of the main differences between the felis cats, which are the small cats, and the Panthera cats, which is the large cats. They are able to roar or saw, but it is a form of roaring. So the ones that are able to are your leopard, your Panthera pardus, your African leopard or Asiatic leopard, lions, tigers, jaguars, snow leopards, because they're also Panthera. It is called the hyoid apparatus, if we want to get technical. But I will show you a diagram of it now. And so none of your smaller cats, domestic cats, caracal, serval, African wildcat, pampas cats, and all the other cats that live all over the world that belong to the genus Felis, and also something like a cheetah is also unable to roar. They're very sort of chirpy, bird-like calls. And while the cats are having a good sleep, I can show you here the hyoidian apparatus. There we go. So this would be in a small cat, one of the felis species, or in a cheetah, for example, which is Asionyx, and that is in a big cat, so lions, leopards, and whatnot. So you can see how that middle section, the hyoid bone in big cats, is cartilaginous and elastic. So when they breathe out with power, it vibrates, and that's what causes the roaring. So wonderful to be with some lions. We're going to move around shortly. Well, continuing on the jaguars, Jennifer's saying they have been known to make their way all into Texas. That is very correct, Jennifer. They've also been known historically, I think, much further north than that, but they were wiped out by the early settlers. I know Arizona's had quite a few jaguar sightings. And it seems like what is happening is that with better conservation and stuff in North America and in Mexico, the jaguars are actually extending their range, which is really, really great to hear. I'm going to move around. Hello, Bryans. Fat kitties. Here, right next to us on the left, is one of the adult lionesses. So there are only 2 adult lionesses. Oops, see, there's a big hole there. There we go. So the one at the back is an adult lioness. The one closest to us, sub-adult, probably maybe even a little bit older than the 3 young boys. And then the old girl without the tail, lying in the middle of those 3 young boys. There she is. And you can see slightly more battle-scarred face than the rest. Looks like a chunk out of her ear missing, and looks like she's had quite the life. It's not easy being a lion, although when you've got a full belly, life is wonderful. But on other times, and especially at the moment with the upheaval in the lion dynamics on the Sabi Sands at the moment, it can be very difficult to keep your progeny safe, and that's what they're doing, and that's probably why the Tsalala pride is here, where they haven't really come historically before. And Lisa is wondering how far are we here from where these Tsalalas are to where the Nkuhumas are on the giraffe carcass. Quite far, Lisa, probably 8 kilometers or so. And if you have a look behind that young male at his tail end, you can see he is urinated there without even standing up. And lions can do that quite often. They'll often, when they've got full bellies, just pee where they lie. Not so worried about personal hygiene, these guys. So, as I said, I haven't seen this pride for a really long time, till they arrived a few weeks ago, and apparently the one adult lioness who is missing from this pride is currently on Sibambili, which is to the west of us, not very far from where we are sitting right now. So these are looking like very, very lazy lions at the moment. And even on this nice cool morning, it doesn't look like they're going to move. I must say I was very fond of this pride many years ago when I worked in the south of the Sabi Sands. And there was what we called the tailless lioness, which was the mother of this tailless lioness, and they seem to have both lost their tails to hyenas, which is quite strange that a mother and daughter would suffer the same fate at the hands of Howard. But they were, which probably means, if I remember correctly, if she's about 10 or 11 years old now, I would have seen her when the Tsalalas pride was just 3, the tailless lioness, and 2 females. And she would have been one of those females, and possibly the other missing lioness could also be one of those females. And they were incredible hunters even back then, with only that very small pride, often taking down buffalo and giraffe. And I actually saw them have a fight over a giraffe carcass with a crocodile in the Sand River. So while these lions are dozing, apparently the Twittersphere is breaking out with what type of cats you get in Texas. And so if you guys wouldn't mind telling me what big cats and small cats you get in Texas, and you can send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. I'm going to guess, and for now,
it's not entirely uncommon to return live.
3 that I can think of offhand. So obviously the jaguar, which we've been discussing, mountain lion, and bobcat, and now I'm out. I'm guessing there are some other smaller cat species in North America, but I can't offhand think. Bryan, any ideas?
Lynx, perhaps?
Lynx and bobcats, I think, are the same thing. Yeah. Maybe not. But we'll find out shortly. So, a sort of discussion and also on the different sounds cats make. And Kachino John says jaguars roar, grunt, mew, and hiss and spit, which would probably be a very similar array of sounds that leopards and lions would be able to make. Obviously, the lion's roar being quite different from the other. And Lisa says pumas scream, a very spooky noise, and I can't remember whether a puma is a panthera and how that hyoid apparatus would operate. So, big thanks to Vicky, who sent us through the list of cats in Texas. And so we got 3, which were jaguar, mountain lion, and bobcat. Then there's a jagaroony and ocelot, as well as the bane of a lot of places, the feral cat, which is basically a domestic cat gone wild. And they pose huge threats to local wildlife populations because they do breed and scavenge so well off human beings. But thanks very much for that. We've got now, I've learned something new, a jagaroony. I mean, I definitely have to look that one up when I get home. And when a lion is full and sleeping, they move very, very little. The occasional ear flick, tail twitch, and maybe a roll over when the soil gets too hot underneath them. We're going to sit here with these lazy lions in case they decide to become active, and in the meantime we're going to go see what member of the floral kingdom James has got.
Hello everybody. I, much like Brent Leo Smith's lions, am enjoying relaxing quietly here in the wilderness. And the feeling of the sand on my arms and my skin, I have to say, is rather wonderful. This, of course, here is a flower, and it is a member of the morning glory family, an Ipomea. I don't know what species it is exactly. Quite astonishingly, despite the exceptional mammal, tree, and bird and insect books that have been written about this area, there is yet to be published a decent flower book pertaining particularly to the Lowveld area. And that is, of course, a great sadness in my life. It's not really. This is a morning glory, and you can see that it's shining on it. When the sun, it will open up very nicely. The other things that you can see around here, some ants. You see the ant, Andrew? Yes. Beautiful ant. And I don't know what kind of ant it is. There are hundreds of species of different ants. And what you'll probably find with these ones is that they're scavenging carnivorous ants. So they'll be looking for any kind of invertebrate or perhaps even carrion to devour and take back to their nests. Now, inside this flower, Andrew, there is a caterpillar. Now, that caterpillar, I have to confess to you, is something of a bit of a prop. Andrew found it on his arm. He squealed and said, "There is a worm on me," and in a high-pitched voice. It is not, in fact, a worm. The interesting thing about it is that it is an insect. Now, most people think of caterpillars as having many legs, and I don't know how well you can see on that picture, but this caterpillar has only 6 legs. Can you see it, Andrew? Yes. And at the back, it's got 4 suckers, and those suckers help it to do that kind of worm-like motion. But it is definitely only 6 legs. There, you can see them now, maybe. And what this little caterpillar is going to turn into, I'm not. A fusion of them around at the moment, I would say it's probably going to be a African migrant. So lost a bit of signal, everybody. Let's go back to Brent and the lions. We'll move and see what other little pieces of wonderfulness we can find out there.
As you can see, the lions have not moved a muscle since you've been gone, and we will, I think, spend another couple of minutes here before heading on and seeing what else we can see. We will definitely come back later on in the drive, but I don't think they're going to be going anywhere, to be honest. They look very, very comfortable at the moment. So you guys asked me, well, I tried to guess what cats you get in Texas. So why don't you guys guess what other cats we get here in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve? And remember to send your answers through to questions at wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. We have tail movement. And there we go. Oh, how was that? Oh, that was exciting. He moved his tail. So, while we're sitting with these lions, Jennifer's wondering, are there any diseases that lions struggle with, such as distemper? Or lions and leopards? They can get distemper. Generally, if they do, it's from domestic cats or domestic dogs in the area, but they are quite immune to a lot of those things. But they can get distemper. They also are able to get, obviously rabies is can be a big problem in a lion pride, as well as tuberculosis. But as you can see, this pride is particularly healthy. I don't see any TB growths on them, and they definitely eat a lot of buffalo. Now, this is by no means a scientifically proved fact, and it's just my theory after being in and around this area since 2002 and seeing lions with TB and what's happened. I think they've started building a natural immunity to TB. And the lions that were affected and didn't hold that natural immunity to TB have slowly been weaned out and die younger. And even with that TB, it does affect the adults, but generally only towards the end of their life. So it's not varying their lifespan incredibly. But as you can see here, we've got some old lions and they're incredibly healthy, especially that tailless lioness. And she's over 10 now, and she's not showing any bad signs. And while we're sitting with wild cats, it reminds me of a great Rudyard Kipling quote from the Just So stories. I am the cat, I walk alone, and all places are the same to me. Probably not for lions, being the only social cat, but for the rest of the cats, a very apt little quote. So, Brandy, who's from Kansas, he was wondering, she seems to think that the tailless lioness and her mother before her seem to be more stocky. And is this something to do with lacking a tail and having to compensate for the lack of balance? Brandy, in lions, I think the tails are not nearly as important from a balance point of view as cheetah. I think because the lack of tail, you tend to look a little bit more closely at her. I don't think she's that much more stocky than the others. I mean, she might look a little bit muscular. That also could just be a bit of age, and she will possibly lose a bit of condition, but at the moment she's in great shape. I don't think she's that much more stocky than the tailed lions in this pride. It's just, I think, without that tail, our eyes suddenly shorten her and sort of give us a visual. Our eyes tell our brains visually she looks shorter and stockier. A really, really good example of stuff like this is when I first moved up to Botswana, and actually a very well-known safari guide who moved up with our family to open up that new area in Botswana. And he said to my dad, the giraffe in Botswana are much shorter than the giraffe in Zululand. And my dad had a chuckle. He said, no, you've got it wrong. The trees are just much taller here, and therefore the giraffes look shorter. So Zululand, that coastal bushveld, and the trees are quite a bit shorter, and when you go up to Botswana, specifically in the Okavango and Kwando regions, you have these massive trees on the tree islands. So the giraffes sometimes look shorter, but they're exactly the same. There we go. And there's a paw, and Ashley was wondering how big are their paws. Well, a male lion's paw is probably about the size of my hand, an adult male. These little guys would probably be very similar to females in terms of size at this age. And Ashley was also wondering if we could tell who was the degrees between them, mother, brother, sister, aunt, auntie, etc. I would, not having seen this pride for a very long time, it's very difficult to say, but the 4 sub-adults could be the youngsters. I would say the 3 males, I mean, they're very similar in age, but they could possibly be from 2 different lionesses. So without knowing and not seeing this pride for a long time, the mothers are either the tailless lioness there, the missing lioness, or the adult lioness lying off at the back. And I would probably guess that the 2 adults are sisters, but from different litters, or even possibly mother and daughter. So it could be the daughter of this tailless lioness. So the original Tsalala pride split. I'm not exactly sure when they split, and there was the Tsalala breakaway pride, which is now known as the Mangen pride, which is 14 animals strong. And I think those, or one of those lionesses is definitely a sister of this tailless. Well, answer to our cat question from Marianne, Siberia, a few others who say, and Crystal who say 8. I'm afraid you're wrong. There's a couple of them. The African civet is not a cat, it's Viverridae. Is its family. It's far more closely related to mongoose. And then also the genet is also not a cat, it is also a Viverridae. So the cat species we get here, I've got the 3 obvious ones, first, which are lion, leopard, and cheetah. And let's find the not so obvious ones, which are, here we go, serval, caracal, and African wildcat. The only other felis or true cat species we get, there we go, that's the serval, which we've seen a couple of times on the live drives. And I have not seen an African wildcat on the live drives, but you might have in the past. And then caracal I haven't seen since I've been in the Sabi Sands this time. I have seen them in other parts of the Sabi Sands, and I actually see them quite often when I'm at home. But the only other true cat that occurs naturally in Africa, in southern Africa, is the small spotted cat, or sometimes called black-footed cat, and that is an arid desert species, so we don't get that here. The closest black-footed cat population here is probably about 100 kilometers away. And those wondering about a sand cat lives in the deserts of North Africa, so very far from here, and won't even feature in my Southern African book. But other cats that we get in Africa, now there's something a bit more interesting. So there are some other cat species we get in Africa. Possibly the one that fascinates me the most is the African golden cat. And that is probably one of the hardest cat species to see in the world. And it lives in the Central African rainforest. It's basically a mini leopard in terms of behavior and that. And I've caught them on camera traps when I was living in the rainforest, but I've never actually seen one. So that's also, from an African animal point of view, very high on my bucket list. And speaking of kitty cats, these aren't moving at all. So, Ashley, thanks for another question, Ashley from North Carolina. Ashley saying she was watching a show on Nat Geo Wild, and lions were trying to hunt buffalo, and the buffalo went into a small water hole under a tree, and the lions didn't go in after it. Are lions scared of water? Will they only go into water when they absolutely have to? Well, Ashley, one thing we're very quick to judge behavior of animals on the species, where there's animal behavior with species like lions is quite often area specific, not animal specific. So lions in the Sabi Sands really don't like water, but lions in the Okavango Delta in Botswana and the Chobe area will often swim over 500 meters to cross water. So it all depends on the area. I think without having actually watched that clip or whatnot, I would say they're probably more worried about the buffalo, and he was onto them, and using that water he was able to defend himself better rather than being worried about the water. But lions will swim and will go into water when they have to. They will not sort of utilize water like tigers and jaguars to cool off or swim in or hunt from. Well, not here. There have been a few records of it in Botswana, but it is unusual behavior rather than normal behavior. And one must remember, every day these animals could do something the books say they don't. But I think it's time to move on from these sleepy kitty cats and see what else we can find. We can definitely take a swing past here later on the drive, see if they've got up to anything else. So we're going to cross across to Commander Bond, who's stalking something far taller than he is.
Hello everybody, we've come to quarantine clearings, and what we're going to do is take you on a little journey of discovery to find some giraffe. Finding is quite a strong term for them because I can actually see them from where I'm standing. But what we're going to try and do is approach them on foot so that they don't run away. Giraffe are very curious, of course, and so with any luck, they'll allow us to approach. There's a green bushel there called a Combretum collinum, or variable bush willow. We're going to walk slowly towards that. I'm going to now whisper for effect, and we'll get as close as we can to the giraffe. Forward ho. Come on, Andrew. Don't mess around. Now, while we're walking towards them, Dave Orban, you wanted to know, you saw giraffe with Brent earlier today. You want to know how big the herds get. Around this area, normally 3 or 4 related females and possibly a bull in attendance if he's trying to get some kind of mating opportunity. What's interesting, these animals definitely see us as predators. So what we try and do, once they've seen us, you can see that giraffe over there has definitely already seen, and I'm sure. Now, when an animal has seen you, if you don't want it to react, the worst thing you can do is behave like a predator. Now, a predator, of course, would disappear behind this tree and hide. We're not going to do that. We're going to accept that they've seen us, and we're going to walk kind of try and language that is totally unthreatening. Hold my natural fashion, and then we'll stop to this tree here. We'll just stop, let them get a little bit used to it, and then see how close we can get. So now we've got the whole group. Some young in the middle, and then the bull who's now turned his back on us. He's obviously, oh, there's some more behind him. This is just fantastic. This is amazing. All right, so our goal from here is going to be to get to, there's a silver cluster leaf tree there. Silver cluster leaf is that kind of silvery green tree there, and we'll try and walk very slowly towards that and see if they don't allow us to get close. Oh, this is so special. Walking closer to, they're inquisitive, our giraffe. There's another one through there. Right, so we'll just stop here. We'll stop here and just wait and see what he does. We'll give him maybe a minute to calm down and perhaps decide whether we're a threat or not. Of course, just to give you an idea, he's not only looking at me at 5'8", he's looking at Andrew, who looks like some sort of a space creature with the backpack, his hat, his earphones and various other accoutrements attached to him. That's probably what the giraffe is so fascinated by. You can hear a question from Ravi while we're looking at these 2 bull giraffes. Ravi, you want to know, do they fight with each other for mating rights, for dominance? They do, absolutely. What they do is, the fascinating thing to do is that they swing their necks onto each other. They kind of swing from the side and whack onto each other's necks, and it makes a huge thwacking sound. And they can do each other quite severe injuries. It's not a very common thing, but it does happen. The other thing they do to show dominance, look, they're coming to have a look at this now. The other thing that they do to show dominance is mount each other, which led to possibly the mistaken impression that the giraffe were one of the only wild mammals to display homosexual behavior. They certainly aren't the only wild mammals to display that, but we think it's more of a dominance display than anything else. You can see the younger one there, well, they're both probably about the same age, is walking a little bit closer just to see what we want. They're very inquisitive creatures. Let's wait here 1 more minute, and if they don't move towards us, what we'll do is just take a few steps closer. In fact, let's just do that now. And we'll stop here. Now, if I was a predator, I would duck down, and that would almost immediately result in either the giraffe rushing over to have a quick look and then running away, or they'd turn around and run away. And certainly if they were buffalo, the worst thing you could do if you were seen, like we have been seen, is to try and hide from them. Buffalo will come and find out what you're doing. But if they were buffalo standing where they are, chances are they'd just stand up and look at us. And you'll hear lots of stories from great white hunters about how incredibly dangerous buffalo are. They were sitting at that sort of distance from us, which is quite close. It's probably about 40 meters away, say 140 feet. They would just look at us. They wouldn't come charging over here. But if you would then duck behind that termite mound and behave like a predator, things would be a bit different. We'll walk a little closer. It's interesting. So I don't know if you heard that, but that giraffe went... He was either sneezing or giving off a slight little piece of alarm. And James Bear, you think that my nonchalance should be demonstrated by swinging my cane from side to side and whistling in the manner of Mr. Bojangles, perhaps. You can see that it is having no discernible effect on the giraffe at all. Let's keep going a little bit closer. Eventually they will turn around and move away, possibly at high speed, but let's see how close we can get before they do that. This is just so fun. Oh, it's wonderful fun. Right, we're now close enough to see that the one on the right-hand side has got an oxpecker. And thank you, Lisa, for your warning that I need to look behind the termite mound to see what's hiding there. Lisa, if there is something hiding behind there, it's not very big. I think I'll probably be able to take it out with my stick. And of course, I'm able to run much faster than Andrew with all of his backpack. So, you know, if I need to, I can outrun him and, you know, he can be sacrificed to the cause. Let's walk a little bit closer. This is just fantastic. Andrew, there's a baby there. Charlie, if we climbed up a tree, do I think that they would come towards us and look at us there? I think they would. But I think before they did that, they'd probably move off. If we'd have to sit in the tree for quite a long time, I think, before they'd come over to the tree. But yes, they would definitely come and investigate. I don't know how close they'd get, but they'd come and investigate. You can see the little baby just over there. We'll move a little bit closer, just kind of looking around, pretending not to look at them. They are eventually going to move away from us, though. This is a very special experience. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 I can see. One there. 2 there. 3 for the bulls, and another cow, hey, in the background. You walk a little bit closer. This is amazing. We are now standing probably 30 meters from the one over there. Just over there. Erin, you want to know how fast a giraffe can run? Erin, a lot faster than me, probably about 60 kilometers an hour, I would say. 60 kilometers an hour in miles is about 40 miles per hour, roughly. So pretty quickly. Now, you may have heard a snorting there. That snorting wasn't a giraffe. It was a wildebeest. There's a little herd of wildebeest as well there. What we'll do is we'll just walk this way around now and see if we can't get a look at the wildebeest as well. Now, when you're on foot, of course, the trick is not to focus only on what you're looking at. that's wonderful. I think that they are fascinated by the aerial sticking out of Andrew's back, to be honest. Isn't that great? There you can see the wildebeest in the background. And that giraffe is now 30 meters from us. So the easiest way to, you multiply by 3 1/4 and you get to roughly the number of feet that is. So 30 meters, sitting roughly 100 feet, plus minus 105 feet or so, not far away. And the wildebeest is probably about 120 meters away. This is wonderful. And then from Laura in Happy Valley in Oregon, do I think they'd ever chase me? I think it's really unlikely. If you cornered them, they really felt like we were threatening them. Yes, it's possible. But I think, you know, his easiest course of action is just to turn around and walk away. And I think that's probably what he will do. No animal out here will cause an unnecessary conflict. The chance of being injured is much too great. And you don't really want to be injured as an animal out here, because if you are, you won't eat and then you will die. There are a whole lot more just standing over there. Look, the bull's coming around here. He's coming to have a look. This is just so cool. You can hear the call of the telephone bird, or the boo-boo shrike, in the background. And all around the doves are calling. Oriole. And the oxpeck. Okay, let's take 2 more steps forward and see what he does. I think we're getting right into that fight or flight zone now. And in my experience, that's normally flight with giraffe, and we're going to hope that that status quo is maintained. I tell you what, Andrew, let's try and go to that tree there. Ramey, you want to know if I've ever come across an aggressive giraffe? No, I haven't, Ramey. I've never come across an aggressive animal. I've come across an animal that has been threatened before, but I've never managed to threaten a giraffe into any kind of a violent action. There, now he's moving. Just a little bit close now, for comfort. I think let's sit. Can we see if we can sit down? We're just going to sit down here, because often what they do is they come a little bit closer when you're sitting, of their own accord. Now, Electra in Boston, Massachusetts, you want to know if they bite. They have, and if how long their tongues are. Their tongues are very long, apparently about 70 centimeters. That's more than 2 feet. And you want to know if they bite. Not that I'm aware of. You know, their main defense is their feet. For them to bite something, remember, I suppose they probably bite each other a little bit, but as a defensive mechanism, biting is pretty hopeless when you're that much taller than anything that might attack you. So their main threats would be hyenas and lions, mainly lions in this area. And, you know, for them to get down and bite a lion would be almost impossible. So they stamp viciously with their feet. Can you smell them, Andrew?
Yes.
They've got a sort of musky, a little bit like waterbuck. It's kind of a horsey smell. Horsey smell with a bit of cinnamon mixed into it. So, Anna-Marie, you want to know if a giraffe would be able to stay away from a lion or keep up with a lion in an open area. So, basically on a racetrack, who would be faster? A lion is quick. A lion would probably run at about 80 kilometers an hour. That's 50 miles an hour, at least 10 miles an hour faster than a giraffe. The giraffe had a decent head start, though. The lions would probably give up, but a lion is definitely faster than a giraffe. And Charlie, you say you saw them chasing a landy on a video. That's quite interesting. I wonder if they weren't being chased themselves by lions, perhaps. Yeah. So they're not slow. They're certainly much faster than any of us, but they're not slow. Here's a little one coming up now just to investigate us. Fascinated by these strange things sitting on the ground. And the two bulls are now coming even closer. They are astonished by what they're witnessing here. Now you get a very strong sense of their smell. They smell... Ooh. It's quite powerful. They really do smell quite a lot like waterbuck. I don't know if you're familiar with the smell musk, but they are quite kind of musky smelling. Not unpleasant at all. It's interesting, I had a tracker called Elvis once, and Elvis used to smell giraffe long before we saw them. And he used to say, "Can you smell them?" And I'd say, "No, I can't smell them." And it's actually only in the last few days that I've started to smell giraffe. This is an interesting question from Pretty Nightmare about whether or not giraffes have top incisors. Pretty Nightmare, you say that they've probably just got a pad on top there. I think they have got very small incisors, Pretty Nightmare. I can actually see some on that giraffe that's coming towards us now. When he opens his mouth, I can see the odd small incisor. We've got a skull at home. I'll just go and have a look there, but I'm pretty sure they've got very small incisors. I might be wrong, though. It's not uncommon for predators, certainly, not predators, herbivores. Certainly sheep don't have incisors on both sides of the jaw. Isn't this wonderful? Not an experience we get in the vehicles at all. Interesting question from Margaret in Kansas. If you want to know when they are ruminating or when they're chewing the cud, are they still ruminating? Well, ruminating is the process of chewing the cud and then swallowing and then digesting. So, I mean, that's a whole process, and it is ongoing in the stomach as well as in the mouth all the time, Margaret. So just perhaps if you're unfamiliar with it, what happens is that they've got a 4-chambered stomach. Food goes in to the mouth, goes into the first digestive section called the rumen. It sits there bobbling about in some bacteria, and then it's vomited back up into the mouth and re-chewed, and then it goes through a process of digestion in the other 3 chambers of the stomach. And what that does is that it extracts every possible piece of nutrients that there is in the grass. Protein, of course, is the difficult thing for them to get. They get lots of carbohydrates from the grass that they eat, but protein is a lot more difficult for them to get because there's not a huge amount of protein in the grass, or not the grass, in the leaves that they eat. So they need that rumination process to extract as much as possible. It's a slightly more advanced process than many of the other animals like an elephant or a zebra have. They've got something called hindgut fermentation, and that hindgut fermentation tends to be less efficient than the rumination is. But their limiting factor is that once the food quality drops below a certain level, then they are unable to take in more food, because they can only take in a certain amount before they have to regurgitate it and rechew it. Whereas a hindgut fermenter, like a zebra, which is just a bit more inefficient, this food quality goes below a certain level, they can just keep eating more and more and more and more. Terry in Santa Ana, an interesting one from you. Do giraffe use their sense of smell when something or someone comes into their territories? Firstly, they don't have territories. They've got what we call a home range, so they don't mark a territory or defend a territory, but absolutely they'll use their sense of smell. They'll use their hearing, their smell, their sight, all their senses to sense any kind of danger and assess it. Now, these giraffes have got bored with us now, and they've just moved on to eat. So what we'll do is we'll just walk around them and see if we can't get another look, and perhaps see what else there is here on quarantine clearings. What a very special experience. While we're doing that, and we mentioned the zebras, I did mention zebra and their digestive systems. The indomitable Brent Smith is sitting with the Dazzle himself. Let's go across to him, and I'll see you a little bit later.
And we are following some striped donkeys down the road. So horses and donkeys are opposite relations to the zebra, but the donkey being a far closer relation. And interesting question for everyone: how many horse or donkey species occur in the wild in Africa? How many donkey or horse species occur in the wild in Africa? Send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live. And now for the cheesy Monday morning joke. Ahead of us we have a zebra crossing. Da-dum. Quack, quack, quack. And see that tail swishing to keep the flies away. But these zebras look like they're about to disappear into the bushes. While we were watching these zebras, Bryan and I heard what we thought to be some branches breaking behind us, so we let the zebras meander off. We're going to go see what was there. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's some ellies, but even if it is, it just sounded like possibly one. Let's go have a look at where those branches were breaking. Quick update from Arathusa. I got on the radio while you were with James, and unfortunately no updates for Arathusa. So we're going to stay in this area, although those elephants sound like, that elephant sounds like it's possibly on Arathusa, so we're going to go have a look there. But other than that, no updates. I was really hoping possibly that new female leopard had crossed across during the evening, but no such luck. So those breaking branch sounds came from in here somewhere. Oh, squiz. There's a road that runs parallel to us, not too far, so maybe we'll check that one out. Here we go. Elephants. At least it seems like my ears are working well. Secretly hoping it's that we might see that big must bull, that big tusker who was in must. But this looks like a breeding herd. Yeah. Nice calm. This little one having a smell at us. Feeling very brave with the fallen knobthorn between. Oh, here he comes. Hello, Mr. Big and Scary. Little female. See that angular forehead? They are very cute when they pretend to be very big and scary towards us. There we go. Putting a little bush between it and us to make it feel a bit safer. Oh, we're going to get a charge. No. And they eat some more fresh shoots. Decided we're not that important. Using its feet, you can see it's got full use of the tongue now. Oh, there we go. A little bit of warmth on our backs. The sun just broke through the cloud a tiny bit. Oh yes, you're very silly. A big, quite a few elephants I can see around us. Got one just off to the left, feeding through the bush there. Another one in front of us directly, so that's two. And then I can just see a tail wagging through the bush to the right. And there we go. The next one is through the bush there. Oh no. Let me have a look. I've got to find my finger. I can just see tail movement and stuff through the bush. And then those two. And another one. Oh, there's quite a lot around here. So at least 7 or 8 that we can see. Possibly a few more. Let's just try and move a little bit. while we get into a bit of a better position, and we're going to send you off to James, who's got some mushrooms that are hopefully not magic.
Hello everyone, lying here on the ground just to the west of quarantine clearings, we have found a little fungus. Okay, so, sorry about that. So what happens is that when Andrew leans forward, he loses the signal. So he has to adopt a number of fairly bizarre postures in order to maintain the signal. So this mushroom, I don't know what it's called. I think Tara called it the Darth Vader mushroom. That's probably quite a good description of it, and would possibly be toxic to us. I've never seen anything eat a mushroom like this, but the top of it has definitely been eaten. And you can see the spores, which are the seeds that a mushroom releases in order to kind of make new mushrooms, have been released. They come out of these filaments here, and I think they've all been released. And this probably came up out of the ground and grew into what it is now within less than a day after that little bit of rain that we recently had. Isn't he magnificent? Wonderful mushroom. Alrighty, well that's the end of the mushroom segment. We'll send you back to the elephants with Brent Smith, and we'll continue. We're trying to find a hornbill nest just further up the road there, and if we can, we'll tell you about it. Fear not. Enjoy the elephants.
We're still sitting here with this wonderful herd of eddies. You can see by their body language, so relaxed around us, and that's very, very special. And see mom and youngster there feeding off the same little knobthorn. Can hear them all around us. Sometimes it's amazing to just sit quietly and peacefully with these giants of Africa. Can hear a grey go-away bird in the tree close by. Go on. Hello, little one. So on the subject of our feathered friends, Anna Marie's wondering when we will see woodlands kingfishers back in the area. If I remember correctly, it should be around the 12th or 14th of November that they arrive. A couple of weeks, and then the bush will be inundated with We are literally surrounded by elephants at the moment. Couldn't think of a better place to be on a Monday morning. Now, very interesting, that female is eating a common spike thorn. And we don't see them eating that too often. That is one of the trees that elephants use when they're younger for teething. Maybe she's got a sore tooth and she's eating quite a bit of that spike thorn that's got a very high tannin level and a very sort of anesthetic property that will also dry out your mouth quite a lot. And she's really going to town on it. And then we've got another elephant who's just popped up in front of us. Hello, big lady. Old female. Taking apart that red bush willow. Yvonne from Sweden has shared a screenshot of a baby elephant sucking its trunk, and she's wondering if, like human babies, they'll do that if they're uncomfortable or shy as a coping mechanism. Not to my knowledge, Yvonne. I think it's just sucking its trunk because it can, and generally when uncomfortable or shy, they will run back to their mothers. I think a trunk is such an important tool to an ellie that I think they're so used to putting it near its mouth or sucking its mouth. There might be a nice little bit of sweet sap on there that it was trying to get, or it could just have been playing with its trunk. Oh. That little bush willow is now almost half the size it was when she began. So looking, what's she after there? A little fresh shoots off a grivia, or looks like an African raisin or raisin bush that she's eating now, and the raisin bush is now gone. She hasn't pulled it out of the ground, so it probably will grow again. Next raisin bush in 1, 2, there we go. Whoop. And now some Pultiforum or weeping wattle. So we've just watched this elephant eat three different species in a very short space of time. And there goes the rest of the weeping wattle. And they tend to only really eat weeping wattle when it's young. They don't really like it too much when it's old. Hello, big girl. Very wrinkly bottom disappearing. Quite an old female by the looks of things. Incredible patterns in the wrinkles of an elephant. Incredibly thick skin, probably 4 or 5 inches thick. We're going to try reposition again. See where the rest of the herd are off to. So while we reposition, we're going to hop across to James, who's with another member of Africa's Big Five.
Hello everyone. There, you might be able to see on the tree is a slit where a branch used to live on that marula tree, and that slit is actually more of a hole. You can't properly see it from here. If I look with my powerful binoculars, I can see that indeed it is a proper hole, and that is a hornbill's nest. Now, just to quickly let you know how a hornbill builds a nest, they don't build them at all. They use holes that have either been excavated by fungus, that's probably been eaten out by a number of wood-eating fungus and beetles and that sort of thing, and they would have gone in there. The female would have shed her feathers, the male would have sealed her in with mud, she'd have laid her eggs, incubated, and while she was incubating and growing her feathers back, the male would have fed her through the little slit like that you can see there, and once the eggs had hatched, she would have come out and helped the male to seal the chicks back in and then feed them. And we saw that millipede very early on in the beginning of our little walk today, and they put millipedes in the mud that seals up the holes, and apparently that deters predators because they are full of cyanide. Now, just over there, in fact crossing the road as well, there is a buffalo. Now, I believe Brent used the term Big Five before he linked to us, and to that I'm going to have a word with him about. But those buffalo are apparently the most fearsomely terrifying animals in all of Africa. Don't they look terrifying? They're not terrifying at all. They're only terrifying if they're threatened. You can see them coming across the road now, and these are old bulls. Well, there are a whole lot of them there, actually. This is a wonderful sighting. They're old bulls who are probably past their prime, no longer able to be with the herd. And as long as you keep your distance like we are keeping ours now, they are not going to react to us. I'm just going to test the wind. This is a sock, Scott Dyson sock full of ash. What we do is we test the wind. You can see it's blowing not badly for us. It's blowing perpendicular to us. So the buffalo won't hear us, or they won't smell us. They will be able to see us. If they look up here, we're not trying to hide from them. If they look up here, they would be able to see us standing on this mound. And I suspect what they'll do is look up, assess the threat level, and given that we're not behaving like predators, we're just standing up here, we're not doing anything predator-like, like hiding or sneaking up towards them, I suspect they'd look at us and then press on with their lives. I think they're probably making their way very slowly down towards Gari Dam, or Djuma Dam, where they'll probably have a bit of a drink. There's a clean water pan that's being pumped in that area now. A termite mound, like the one we're standing on, of course, is the best vantage point. They really are good spots to look at animals from. They're pretty safe, and they're also really good for animals to be able to see you if you want them to see you. And if you don't, you just drop down the other side and then they can't. I've had any number of spectacular walks, especially with white rhino, from termite mounds. And you can sit on the termite mounds and sometimes they'll come right up and graze around it. And because they're virtually blind, as long as the wind is correct and you don't make a noise, they've got no idea that you're there. It's the most wonderful experience. And likewise, it's just great that the buffalo don't know we're here, or they're certainly not affected by us. And just to keep you posted, we're going to stay here for a little while. We're going to watch the whole little herd of bulls move past here, and then we'll probably make our way slowly back across quarantine clearings and see what else there is there. But for the moment, let's just marvel at these huge 600 or 600 to 900 kilogram bulls. And just to reiterate, the Big Five, of course, is an old hunting term. There's another one coming through there, Andrew. There's an old hunting term that referred to the animals that apparently were the most dangerous to hunt. Because we're not hunting them, you'll find that buffalo are pretty docile as long as you don't give them a nasty surprise or a fright. And that's why I'm standing up here on the termite mound in plain view. And thank you, Suzanne. You are obviously watching our little segment that we did with the mushroom, and you say James and the Giant Mushroom could be the title to the next Roald Dahl children's book. I think Were the Great Man Still Alive, I'd suggest it to him. Maybe perhaps Andrew and the Giant Mushroom would have been a good one. James already featured in The Peach, of course. Now we've been seen. Those buffalo have spotted us. You see that one looking at us, Andrew? And that has happened. The wind has switched. It's come from behind us, and I suspect they've picked up the smell of us. And what we'll do is just stand here and watch. We're a long distance away. We're a really good distance, probably about 200 meters. So 600, more than 600 feet. So let's stay watching these buff for a little bit longer, then we'll head back to Brent. Ooh, can hear some buffalo grunting in the distance. The two bulls probably having a little bit of a fight with each other. But we'll watch the last of them walk across the road there. There they go. They're just grazing quietly towards a small pond that's not too far from here. Now, the buffalo, just like the giraffe, are ruminants, and so they do need water. That's the only limiting factor for a buffalo. They've got incredibly efficient digestive systems. And so the only thing that stops them from being able to derive the nutrition they need to from the grass is not enough water. And there's plenty of water around here, and you can see those buffalo are in pretty good nick. So that terrifying buffalo, you saw it viewed us, it saw us. There's also a nyala there. Can you see the nyala?
Yeah.
This terrifying buffalo looked at us, saw us, and started eating again. Now you can see that's purely because we are not representing a threat. We're not behaving like predators towards them. We're standing on top of the termite mound in plain view. They know that we know that they can see us. And you can see the nyala is far more skittish about us. He's much more suspicious of our motives than the buffalo. That's wonderful. All right, I think let's head back across to Brent and see what he's got to show you. We're going to make our way back, possibly across quarantine clearings via a slightly different route, and see what else we can find on our way. What a marvelous sighting that was. See you just now.
So unfortunately those Ellies moved into quite a thick block, and we didn't want to bash around and disturb them. So we're slowly making our way. We're getting quite close to where those lions were. Just double checking they haven't moved. It has been a cool morning, but they are quite full. And of course, have they moved? They have moved 20 meters. From out in the open, that little burst of sunshine sent them to the shade. So they have moved from there to there. So, while you were with James, I did a little bit of research, and there are only 4 of the big cats that are able to roar. We do call leopard coughing, but it is a form of roar, and that is lion, tiger, leopard, and jaguar. So, one of the only members of the Panthera family that are not able to roar is the snow leopard. where there is puma and cheetah, even though their voice boxes are theoretically large enough, that bone is ossified. So ossified is solid, so they are unable to roar. And the snow leopard also has that big enough voice box to do it, but its vocal cords lack an important layer of fat and elasticized tissue. So even though it isn't as ossified as something like a cheetah or a house cat, it's still not as elastic as the other four of the Panthera genus. So speaking about calls and noises, William Rhinelander is wondering, do we ever use imitation calls to attract animals to our location? We don't, William. There's a few reasons we don't. The most important is that we are here to observe, not to interfere. However, saying this, in the past, on scientific expeditions, I have personally used calls to attract animals before, and that is generally for research. It is deemed one of the better ways to attract big cats and hyenas into an area, and especially if you're under limited time to get genetic samples and test for disease and things like that. It is a very, very useful tool. So there's a couple of different calls that are used to attract animals. For lions, the most common one is a baby buffalo distress call. So someone has recorded, or there's quite a few recordings of a baby buffalo being killed by lions, and you attach large speakers to your vehicle and you play that, and that if there are any lions close by, it'll bring them careering in, as well as any hyenas. But if you want to attract leopard more specifically, but this will also attract lions and hyenas as well, but you play pig squeals. So either a warthog being murdered by a cat, or even just a domestic pig squealing will bring leopards in. Leopards sometimes respond to the baby buffalo distress call as well, but more from a case of interest, just to see what's going on, and they often don't get close enough to dart in those circumstances. You can hear the rusty spring in the background, or the Cokie Franklin. And the other calls that are used to attract lions, specifically if you're on the hunt for male lions, and depending on the area, would be to play the roar of an unknown male lion, and would bring the territorial males in to defend. And that can often work from quite a distance. Another call that we've used before, and that also attracts lions and both hyenas, is hyena clan fights, or hyenas fighting with lions on a kill. All of those will work for the large apex predators. Oh, there's a stretch going on inside that quarry bush. Paws up, resting on a branch, oh, and down. One up, one still up. Oh, we can just see it lazing. So we've seen lions with me and giraffe in the beginning of the drive, and I know you had a fantastic walk with James and some giraffe. And Barbara said she's seen a video of a giraffe stomping a lion to death. Is this possible? Very much so. Those giraffe hooves are formidable weapons, and that's how they defend themselves against lions. So a giraffe is a high-risk animal for a lion to hunt, but it is very possible. And certain prides of lions, we've got some, just turning around, I think. Decided it was uncomfortable the way he was facing. And we're going to wait with these lions. I don't think they're going to move too much. Hopefully we do get a little bit of movement. But in the meantime, James has got a very, very pretty flower. Or we'll wait for this guy to move. Maybe he'll go flop on one of the other lions. Oh. There we go. Needed a pillow. That's why it was uncomfortable. But on that very restful note, we're going to go across James. He's got a very beautiful flower to show you, as well as a termite area.
Hello everyone. You are looking pretty much up my nose, which is probably slightly disconcerting, but you're also looking at a glorious flower called, Andrew?
Canary, Christmas tree.
Or Chinese lantern, or Dicrostachys cinerea, the sickle bush. Now they actually, they have a heavenly light, sweet smell, very delicious indeed. And it's growing here on a termite mound. And the termite mound, unsurprisingly, has quite a lot of termites in it. And we'll go and have a look. They've opened up a tunnel here. Andrew, you've now managed to catch yourself in this sickle bush. That's Andrew falling off the termite mound. That wasn't an artistic attempt at a shot. He was just falling over himself. Right, come up this side, and you can see inside the termite mound here. And there are a lot of vicious soldiers lurking about to the top. There you can see them, perhaps. Can you see them, Andrew? I think we need to get further in. There we go. Look at the termites there. They're building furiously. They've been building this mound for some time. I've looked in here a few times.
The heat is stealing up the limbs.
The heat, yeah, that's wonderful. So you definitely saw the amount of heat coming out of it, and moisture is such that it was enough to steam up the lens. That is wonderful to see. So if I put my hand over the top here, I'm not going to put it in because that will result in my being bitten by one of these soldier termites, and that is quite sore. You can feel the heat coming out, and you can feel the moisture. Oh, there's a soldier coming to get me. You look at that. They're coming to attack me. And I have to tell you, it's pretty sore when they bite you. Oh, and he is attacking. I tell you what, I tried to induce this one to bite my knuckle, just so that you can get an idea. Come on then.
Misting up.
Is it misting? Sorry about that. But now they're shaking around their heads like that. I think that what they're doing is probably excreting a pheromone of alarm, and that will result in the whole lot of the termites coming up in order to attack Andrew and I, drag us down into the mound and possibly devour us. I'm talking absolute rubbish. They wouldn't do that. They only eat fungus. These are the fungus-growing termites, and these are the soldiers. There. Oh! Look how he's taken my skin. Can you see that? Can you see he gave me an owie, Andrew? Can you see the skin there?
Yeah, sorry
it's been discoloured, yes. And it's bleeding. There's blood. Look at that. Vicious little blighter. Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to bleed to death, but it certainly is impressive what a little termite is able to do with his vicious little mandibles. Those are the jaws. So those are the soldiers, and not all of them have got those jaws. The workers don't. And he's shaking, telling his friends to come and help him. We're under attack, is what they're saying. How wonderful. Now, you get two different sizes of termites, or soldiers. You get the major ones and the minor ones, and this is a minor one. The major ones are about twice that size, and I wouldn't have stuck my finger into the jaws of one of them. I'd probably have cried on live air if I had. Yeah, and I just want to give you an impression of the smell. There's a lovely smell coming out, a real earthy smell. It smells like fresh soil. They are the most astonishing creatures. There's a worker, Andrew. Now, an animal hasn't crushed this. I think this one has probably been opened up perhaps by some hornbills. They definitely open them up so that they can eat the termites. And they haven't closed this one off. This one's been open for a little while, actually. I suspect you can see here, they are closing it down. And they will eventually repair it until it's closed. Did you get a picture of that worker there without the mandibles? Not really. Yeah, now all the soldiers are coming towards the top here. I mean, there would mostly be soldiers near the top, because obviously this is where the greatest threat to the mound is. But there are workers around as well without those vicious little mandibles. It's just incredible. You've got a worker. Gee whiz, look at that. So very difficult, obviously, for Andrew to try and focus inside this mound. The camera picks up all sorts of different pieces of light, and so it becomes almost impossible. But there you get an idea. Right. I think the lens is misting up slightly, and I obviously need to apply first aid to my finger because it has been viciously attacked by a termite soldier. While I'm doing that, we'll take you across to some other vicious but very sleeping predators with Brent, and we'll see you just now.
Poor James, even the termites attack him. But on the subject of termite mounds, would you believe it that in Australia, in Melbourne, in 2006, there was a building that was constructed to be as environmentally friendly as possible, and all its heating, ventilation and cooling systems were based on the structure of a termite mound. So we can see all the lions are very, very lazy. And very, very comfortable. It looks like they'll have enough shade here, even if these clouds dissipate. And one of the young males, not this one who is exposing himself, has a wound on the base of his tail. And we're going to have a quick look at it now. I know you first saw it with Jamie when these lions were seen on Arethusa, and we can have a look there now. See now, doesn't look too bad. A little bit of infection, and that's probably caused by all those flies. But this is the type of wound that could possibly result in the loss of a tail, and more than likely not though. And these animals have an incredible capacity for healing, and wounds that look very bad to us are actually not that bad for them. I'm sure it's quite irritating, especially with the flies, but it doesn't look too infected, and it looks like it should heal over time as long as he doesn't irritate it too much. It'd be fascinating to know how that wound was caused, possibly from another lion claw. And there has been such upheaval in recent months with the lions in the Sabi Sands. As you can see, he doesn't look like he's lost any condition. He's in very good condition, fat and healthy. So a lot of you at home will see or have a specific scratching post for your domestic cat. And Ashley from North Carolina was wondering, do lions sharpen their claws on trees? They definitely do, and there's multiple reasons for this. Not only does it help to keep those claws nice and sharp, it also cleans a lot of that rotting meat from under the claws. So they definitely do that. But these lions don't look like they're going to go anywhere. We will definitely follow up with them on the sunset safari, and we're going to continue on for the last couple of minutes, see what else we can find. And while we do that, I asked you guys a question about horse and donkey species naturally occurring in Africa. And very well done to Crystal. Crystal's hit the nail on the head. And there are 3 species of zebra. You have your plains zebra and their different variants. You have 2 different mountain zebras, but they also are very closely related. And then the gravy zebra up in northern Kenya into Somalia. And then the wild ass, which lives in the deserts of North Africa. Crystal also noticed that previously I've spoken about an animal called a quagga. A quagga is an extinct zebra species, and she was wondering if that was included. Crystal, that quagga, as you correctly presumed, would fall under the plain zebra thing. It's just a color variation of them. And the same goes for the Hartman's mountain zebra and the Cape mountain zebra. They're also just variations of the same species. And the wild ass is very particular and living up in the desert regions, actually a very endangered animal. Quite often its territory is in very war-torn countries, and they have been hunted extensively over the years. And Crystal also mentioned that there's a population of wild horses living in the Namib desert in Namibia. And she says these are feral, so they don't count. Again, Crystal, you're spot on. They are apparently mostly Hanoverians, which is quite a fancy German horse. My mother used to ride dressage on one, and they apparently escaped during World War I from the German encampments there. And there's a huge amount of discussion happening with the wild horses and what to do with them. So obviously, people being people, we get very, very attached to certain things. And so a lot of people say we should just let them roam free. They are a feral exotic animal in a wild area. Namibian Nature Conservation, as far as I know, is preparing to destroy those animals. They are affecting the local wildlife in terms of water usage and things like that. But it is still an ongoing story. And guys, there are lions right here. You just better be careful now. There's some kudu. They're lying up. They're probably about 100 meters from the lions. But the lions are lying quite out in the open, and kudu have fantastic eyesight. So if they do get that way, I think the kudu will probably spot the lions before the lions spot the kudu. Okay, and off the kudu maneuver. There we go, one popped out into the open. Good spot, Bryan. I love the kudu's ears. Radar dishes, picking up every little sound in the bush. So, warming up quite nicely, but still a little bit chilly. Bryan and I are both still wearing our jerseys. Or jumpers, as you would call them. So while we meander on, we're going to head off back to James, who is being stalked by a very unlikely animal. quite funny.
Hello, everyone. We had a giraffe just over there. I'm afraid it's absconded into the bushes. It's not far away from here. And just on the subject of giraffe, we had a lovely question, two lovely questions. One from Erin. Firstly, what does giraffe weigh? A big bull giraffe will weigh about 1.2 to 1.4 tons, so that's 1,400 kilograms. Multiplied by 2.2, let's call it about 3,200 pounds-ish. And a cow, 900 to 1,000. So, well, you can work that out in pounds, just multiplied by 2.2, roughly 2,200 pounds. And then, Ashley in North Carolina, you wanted to know about do they make noises? They do make the odd noise. They make a kind of psh sound if they're alarmed. I've also heard them kind of make almost a roaring sound if they're really upset. I heard a mother once that was watching a leopard eat her baby. They made a kind of roaring sound. That's very unusual, though. We also think that giraffe can communicate infrasonically, a bit like elephants, which is a frequency of sound too low for us to hear. So they do quite a lot of communication. For a long time, it was thought that they were completely silent, but that is no longer the case. Right, we're going to probably leave you now with just a last look at... Oh, sorry, you are staying with me, actually. There's a beautiful tree here called a brown ivory, and it's certainly one of my favorites. It's called Berkemia discolor, and you can see that Andrew and I are, in fact, floating in the air. It's quite a remarkable talent that we've managed to develop while we were on this walk. This is Berkemia discolor, or the brown ivory tree, and I like them because they are of the venation, so the veins, and also because they grow on termite mounds. And this one isn't growing on a termite mound, and they just form the most quintessential sort of tree shape. Beautiful colors, and they're not that thick in the canopy when they're big, and so you can lie underneath them on a summer's day in the shade and watch the birds flying overhead. And when they're fruiting, of course, the birds in their branches. Beautiful. I'm just going to quickly see if I can... There it is. Andrew, come over here. There's the giraffe walking through the bushes over there. Can you see him? Well spotted. I'm going to go around behind you. You still see him? I'll see if I can get a better view from over here. No, I can't. Anyway, beautiful giraffe there. I don't think he's making any sounds, Ashley, but he's a good-sized giraffe. Probably weighs in the region of 1.2 tons, 1,200 kilograms, times 2.2 puts us at roughly 2,800 or 2,600 pounds. I must say it would be very helpful if the Americans and British of the world would come across to the metric system. It's just so much easier to use. Right. Okay. Andrew, anything else you think we can get from this particular vantage point? We're standing on what is known as a bush braai spot. Sometimes people come out here and they have a barbecue in the evenings. That's a very pleasant thing to do. I've done it myself on many occasions. And nothing quite like having a barbecue with the sounds of the wild around. Now, I think that's all that you're going to get from Andrew and I today, because we pretty much can't move from here. If we do move from here, there may be an accident. Andrew will probably fall on his back. I'll have to administer first aid. It'll just be very unattractive because he's carrying so much. In fact, just before we go across to Brent to say hello, I'm just going to show you what Andrew looks like. There he is over there. You can see he's carrying an enormous amount of equipment. He looks like he might, in fact, be an alien. There we go, Andrew, before I totally lose focus. People, it's been a wonderful experience being on foot with you today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So much more entertaining. It's wonderful looking at the big stuff in the cars, obviously, but it's a lot more difficult to show you the smaller wonders of the bush when you aren't on foot, and what a privilege it has been. Thank you for your questions and comments. Again, they're always astute and always very interesting, and it's great to interact with you on this level. Thank you very much. Thanks to Tara, of course, and Louise in the final control, and the indomitable Brent Leah Smith, of course, with Bryan on the other car. Thank you, Andrew. Well done. Good job. We'll head across to Brent, and I'm not sure who's going to drive and who's going to walk this afternoon, but we will see you later on at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Stay happy and safe wherever you are. Bye-bye.
We've just spotted, now we've spotted 2 flying creatures. One up in the air there that Bryan's got. And from the brief look I had, it's not the best view. As it disappeared, it looks like a Wahlberg's eagle. Very long, straight tail. But now I'm going to try find you a far more difficult flying creature to view, and a really, really beautiful one. There we go, Bryan. See that stick on the ground there? Yeah. There we go. So I just spotted it landing. There we go. It's called a citrus swallowtail butterfly. One of my favorites, and we're definitely starting to see a few more of them after a little bit of cool weather and rain we've got. So it's been a fascinating sunrise safari, and I can't wait to get out again on the sunset safari. The line dynamics at the moment are so interesting. Are the Tsalalas Pride going to continue south back to their more traditional home range? But between them lie the Birminghams. Bad news for them. Where are the Matimbas? I heard they did come very close back into their old territory, but then ran back down south. I'm hoping Tsalalas Pride decide to stay around here. I'm quite fond of them, and it's going to be really interesting, and only time's going to tell what's going to be happening with all this line dynamics, and hopefully our leopard luck will change. I mean, we've had them calling so close to the boundary, they just haven't popped across yet. So hopefully in the next day or two they will, the male leopards. And even more exciting, I really want to see that new female leopard I heard about yesterday on Arathusa, the daughter of Kwatile, and hopefully she'll start also moving into this vacuum that it seems to be around us with leopards at the moment. But other than that, thanks very much for joining us on the Sunrise Safari, and thank you for all your questions. They were great. Well done to those who got their answers right. And we're going to leave you with a nice African view for the last few seconds, but don't forget to join us on the Sunset Safari.